I love Zagreb. It's a great city, and I recently did a video on why Zagreb is the best place I've ever lived. But here are 10 things that I think are quite amazing about Zagreb, and they're not necessarily the traditional things you'd find in tourist guides. Number one of the problems Croatia has is people don't know where it is. It's somewhere in Eastern Europe. There is a common misconception because it's really Central Europe. But it's quite surprising to find that Zagreb actually is further west than the Austrian capital of Vienna and the Swedish capital of Stockholm. So it's actually very oriented towards the west geographically. And indeed, if you go to the coast, you're only 46.4 kilometers from Italy through the tiny Slovenian border. Number two, apart from Vienna, it's the only EU capital which has its own wine road, which even most people in Zagreb don't know about. There are some very famous wineries in Pleševica, just outside Zagreb. That's its own wine region. But in November 2009, there was the Zagreb City Wine Road was opened. And these are 7 wineries which can be found in the northeastern part of the city boundaries up in the hills of Medvednica. Number 3, it's the only EU capital where you can be skiing within 30 minutes from the city centre. And indeed, there is a famous women's international ski race, the Snow Queen, which is held every year in January. But up on the slopes of Sljeme, you can get there by bus, by car, and now also by cable car. So it's one more diversion from the city centre, one more diverse thing you can do here in Zagreb. Number 4, it has the most franchised private museum in the world, with some 46 museums all over the world, from an idea which was born and started in Zagreb. While many people think the Museum of Broken Relationships is the most famous museum in Zagreb, it's actually the Museum of Illusions which takes the title, and this now has gone all over the world, and the franchising is becoming more and more aggressive, and I think they're going to get to about 60 or so next year. But the whole thing about museums in Zagreb are very interesting because they have a number of very innovative museums, such as Illusions, such as the Museum of Broken Relationships, such as the world's first hangovers museum, which is actually quite a lot of fun to go to. They have the 1980s museum, they have a museum of selfies, they also have what is acclaimed to be the best cannabis museum in the world. Some say that there are more museums per capita in Zagreb than any other city in the world. I don't know if that's true, but there's definitely a lot of diversity in addition to all the art galleries and everything else. It's a very cultural city, and it's well worth checking out for that point of view. It's the only city in the world that I've come across that has its very own solar system. This is a very innovative concept from a guy called Davor Price, who has constructed the grounded sun and then the 9 planets all around it, and he's positioned them by size and by distance as they are in reality, and managed to get them all within the city boundaries. This is a really fun treasure hunt for families and for kids. And when we first moved to Zagreb a couple of years ago, I was trying to introduce the city to my family, and we would go out every evening and go and try and find one of these planets and then explore the local area around it. This is a very walkable city, very green city. Indeed, even the horseshoes are green. In 1880, there was a devastating earthquake, even more so than the one that happened in 2020. As a result, a lot of the city was redesigned, and there was a chap called Lanucci, and he decided to make a lot of greenery in the centre of town. And he designed this thing called the Lanucci Horseshoe, which you can stroll along today. And you start at the main square in Banja Luka and walk down through 3 lovely parks down to the main train station, take a right, go through the botanical gardens, which were built in 1889, and then you walk up then a few more squares there. It's just a very nice introduction to the nature and the cafe society of Zagreb, and it's highly recommended as a nice little walk around. Living in the Old Town, one of the things I really appreciate is the tradition of lighting the gas lamps. The street lamps used to be a lot more gas lamps, but that tradition still continues today. Back in the 1930s, there were no less than 1,975 gas lamps in Zagreb, and they were lit every single night. But that tradition carries on in 2023. There's now 246 of these gas lamps left, and there are 2 gas lighters. One of whom we followed in the footage you can see here, and he's been doing this job now for 20 years, and every evening without fail they light these 246 gas lamps. They start at St Mark's Square, which is the centre of the Old Town, and then they go through Stonegate, and in Stonegate There is one gas lamp at the religious shrine there, and that's the only one that is permanently lit. And they walk around 4 kilometers, it takes 2 or 3 hours, and every evening the 246 gas lamps are lit. This is just one wonderful tradition in the modern world that exists here in Zagreb. If you come to Zagreb in the centre around about midday every day, you'll get a bit of a shock when you hear this cannon fired. This is a tradition which has been going on since 1877, and it started as a way to inform all the bell ringers and the rest of the churches around the city that it was exactly midday so that they could start ringing their bells. Today it's still a tourist attraction, it still happens, and they fire this cannon over one of the most fun public transport opportunities I've ever had the chance to take. Some say it's the shortest public transport in the world. It's the oldest in Zagreb, 66 meters. It's a funicular going very steeply up the hill. Way back when, they used to have 3 classes, first class, second class and third class, just to go the 66 meters. And one fun fact is, in the almost 150 years of its existence, there hasn't been a single accident. It's quite short, but it's quite a fun thing to do as a tourist. And if you're doing it midday, you can have a cannon flying over your head. Great stuff. If you're into appreciating cemeteries, because cemeteries can be some of the most beautiful things in the world, a great way to celebrate death. There must be very few places in the world that do cemeteries better than Zagreb, and MIROGOJ is just an absolute stunning destination, full of history, full of stories. It dates back to 1876 when it was opened. There's several 100,000 people buried there, but one of the things I really like about it is there is no religious discrimination. So there you will find Catholics, Orthodox, Muslims, Jews, Lutherans, all buried there. But it's also an incredibly beautiful building, all the around, and some of the graves are fantastic. There are some quite interesting characters there. Probably the most popular one visited is the basketball legend Dražen Petrović, who died tragically at the age of 28. But if you're going to go to MIROGOJ, I absolutely recommend you do it on November the 1st, which is the day of All Souls. And this is where all the people from Zagreb go to remember their dead and to lay flowers and candles. It's an incredibly atmospheric time to visit, and it really brings out a different aspect of the city and of the whole Croatian psyche. But just as a place to wander around, incredible. And the last thing is not perhaps something that you're going to be amazed at unless you're into really weird and fun pub quiz facts. The only city in the world that begins with Z is Zagreb. Zagreb, it's unique, it's wonderful, and it's a great place to live, and I very much encourage you to visit.